The morning my father tore down my boxing posters was the day I stopped speaking to him. I was 14, living in Louisville in Kentucky, in a modest home on the edge of a neighborhood where dreams either blossomed or withered depending on which side of the financial divide you stood. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and back in 1974, I was the only girl in my high school with a subscription to Boxing Illustrated and a dream of becoming the first female boxing coach at the Olympic level. No daughter of mine will waste her life on that barbaric sport, my father declared. His eyes cold as he crumpled the poster of Muhammad Ali I'd saved 3 months of allowance to buy. Dad was an investment banker with a corner office and a premium health insurance plan that covered his blood pressure medication. Medication he claimed I was forcing him to take with my boxing obsession. The truth behind my father's hatred for boxing ran deeper than concern for my future. 20 years earlier, his younger brother had suffered a traumatic brain injury in an amateur boxing match. The family had struggled with medical bills, even with their insurance coverage, until my uncle passed away at just 23. Dad had sworn then that boxing would never touch our family again. But Ali was more than just a boxer to me. He was proof that words could be as powerful as punches, that principles were worth fighting for. At night, I'd watch the grainy television in our wood-paneled basement, the volume barely audible, as Ali danced around opponents, making prediction poems come true with his lightning-fast combinations. That man might talk pretty, but he's still just a glorified street fighter, Dad would say whenever Ali appeared on our television. He'd change the channel faster than Ali's famous left jab. My mother walked the tightrope between us. Your father has a substantial life insurance policy and a retirement plan that would make most people jealous, she'd whisper to me. He just wants security for you, a career with stability. Mom worked as a personal wealth advisor at the same financial institution as Dad. Their combined income afforded us a comfortable lifestyle in our 4-bedroom home in a gated community. But money didn't solve everything. On my bedroom ceiling, I'd secretly taped a new poster of Ali, visible only when I lay in bed. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, I'd whisper to myself each night, dreaming of a world where my passion wouldn't be dismissed. Little did I know that the universe was about to deliver the most unexpected knockout punch to our family's status quo. If this story has made you feel something already, however small, don't leave without giving back. Comment and tell me where you're watching this video from, and subscribe to the channel. The doorbell rang on a crisp Saturday morning in October. Dad was reviewing investment portfolios in his home office, looking for high-yield bonds for his clients. Mom was at her weekly checkup at the private medical clinic downtown. Preventative health care was her religion. My younger brother Tommy was at his executive test prep course, preparing for exams that wouldn't come for years. I raced to the door, expecting the package of boxing gloves I'd ordered using the emergency credit card Dad had given me for actual emergencies. What I found instead made my heart nearly stop. Muhammad Ali, the heavyweight champion of the world, stood on our doorstep, his broad shoulders filling the frame. Beside him was Angelo Dundee, his legendary trainer. "Is this the Mitchell residence?" Ali asked. His voice surprisingly soft for a man whose words could electrify stadiums. I couldn't speak. My personal hero, the greatest boxer who ever lived, was standing at my doorway in our exclusive neighborhood where property values had doubled in the last 5 years. "You must be Sarah," Angelo said with a gentle smile. "Your essay about what boxing means to you was quite something. 300 essays from across the country, and yours stood out like a diamond." Essay? What essay? Then it hit me. 3 months ago, a national sports magazine had run a contest for young boxing fans. I'd poured my heart into a 5-page essay about how Ali's resilience had inspired me through my own struggles, how I'd started a secret boxing club for girls in our school's basement. I'd mailed it off and promptly forgotten about it, knowing the chances of winning were slimmer than landing a perfect punch on Ali himself. "We don't normally make house calls for contest winners," Ali said with that mischievous grin that had charmed the world. "But your words moved me, young lady. You've got fire in your spirit, just like I did at your age." Behind me, I heard my father's heavy footsteps descending the stairs. "Sarah, Who's at the... His words cut off abruptly as he saw who stood at our threshold. Mr. Mitchell. Ali extended his hand. Your daughter has quite a way with words, much like myself. He winked at me. My father stood frozen, his expression shifting between shock, disbelief, and something I couldn't quite identify. The financial papers he'd been holding slipped from his grasp, scattering across our marble entryway like autumn leaves. My father's face drained of color as he stared at Muhammad Ali standing in our doorway. The man whose career he'd dismissed as barbaric was now extending a hand in greeting. Dad looked like he might need his blood pressure medication right then and there. Mr. Muhammad Ali, my father finally managed, his voice uncharacteristically small. This is unexpected. Life's full of unexpected moments, Mr. Mitchell, Ali replied with the charisma that had made him a global icon, like finding out your daughter has the soul of a champion. My father's jaw tightened. Even face to face with greatness, his prejudice against boxing held firm. My daughter needs to focus on her education, a proper career path. Not this. He gestured vaguely toward Ali, as if the champion represented everything wrong with the world. May we come in? Angelo Dundee asked, his tone diplomatic. We have something important to discuss with your family. Reluctantly, my father stepped aside, his executive training kicking in despite his discomfort. As Ali entered our living room, he seemed to fill the space not just with his physical presence but with an energy that transformed our ordinary home into something momentous. Nice place you have here, Ali commented, glancing around at the framed certificates from financial institutions and the family photos showing us in coordinated outfits at various vacation destinations. Looks like you've built yourself a secure life. My father nodded stiffly. Financial planning and intelligent investments, that's what builds security, not getting hit in the head for a living. I wanted to disappear into the carpet. But Ali just laughed, a rich sound that seemed to vibrate through the room. You know what else builds security, Mr. Mitchell? Knowing who you are, standing up for what you believe in. That's what your daughter did in her essay. Angelo pulled out a folded paper from his breast pocket. My essay. Sarah wrote about how boxing isn't just about fighting. It's about discipline, strategy, respect. She wrote about how it saved her when she felt invisible. My father's eyes darted to me, confusion evident. Invisible? We've given you everything. Private school education, college fund, health insurance that would cover any specialist you'd ever need. Material security isn't emotional security, Dad, I said quietly, finding courage in Ali's presence. You've never once asked why boxing matters to me. Ali moved to our mantelpiece, examining the family photos. He stopped at one showing my father with his arm around a young man, my uncle, Curry, before the boxing injury that eventually took his life. Your brother? Ali asked gently. My father's composure cracked slightly. Yes, he died because of boxing, because some trainer convinced him he could be the next great champion. Ali nodded thoughtfully. I'm sorry for your loss. Truly. He turned to face my father directly. But you're punishing your daughter for a tragedy she had no part in. I'm protecting her. My father's voice rose. Do you know what it's like to watch someone you love connected to life support machines? To make decisions about continuing care with insurance representatives breathing down your neck? Sir, Ali said, his voice carrying the weight of his own struggles. Life doesn't come with guarantees. Not in the ring, not in your investment portfolios. The only guarantee is that trying to control everything will leave you with nothing that matters. My father sank into his imported leather armchair, suddenly looking older. What exactly do you want here? If it's to convince me to let Sarah box, you're wasting your time. Ali exchanged glances with Angelo, then smiled. Actually, I came to offer Sarah something different, a chance to learn the business side of boxing. My heart skipped. This was better than anything I could have imagined. Angelo here is starting a management company, Ali continued. Sarah's essay showed she understands boxing in ways most promoters never will. We're offering her a paid internship next summer. She'll learn contract negotiation, event planning, marketing, all the things that happen outside the ring. My father's expression shifted. Business contracts. These were terms from his world. The sports management industry has a projected growth rate higher than most financial sectors, Angelo added, speaking my father's language, and Sarah would be positioned at the ground floor of a company with the greatest boxer in history as its flagship client. I held my breath, watching my father process this information. It was as if two worlds were colliding, his world of financial security and strategic planning, and the world of boxing that he'd walled off due to personal tragedy. She'd still be involved with boxing, my father said, but his tone had shifted from outright refusal to cautious consideration. But learning transferable business skills, Allie countered, skills that would apply whether she stays in sports management or goes into any other business field. Including finance. My father looked at me, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time in years. Is this what you want, Sarah? Not to box, but to work in the business of boxing. I want to be part of this world, I answered honestly. I don't have to be the one throwing punches to make an impact. Something unspoken passed between us. A recognition, perhaps, that we'd both been fighting our own battles, his against the past, mine for my future. Allie watched this exchange with knowing eyes. Then, with the timing of a perfect knockout punch, he delivered his closing argument. Mr. Mitchell, I understand your fear, but sometimes the greatest risk isn't in taking a chance. It's in not taking one. Your daughter has a fire that the world needs. Don't extinguish it. Help her direct it. My father stood and walked to the window, looking out at our carefully manicured lawn, the symbol of his ordered, controlled life. Behind him, the greatest boxer in history waited for his decision, while I held my breath, standing at the crossroads of my future. Your brother wouldn't have wanted this, Allie said quietly. My father turned sharply, his face a storm cloud. Don't you dare presume to know what my brother would have wanted. I knew Billy Mitchell, Allie replied, his voice steady. The room went silent. Even the ticking of our grandfather clock seemed to pause. What did you just say? My father's voice was barely audible. William, Billy Mitchell, fought under the name Billy, the Kid. Mitchell, quick feet, decent right hook, but dropped his left guard too often. Allie's eyes held a distant memory. I sparred with him once before my Olympic days. He had heart. My father staggered back against the wall, next to the framed certificate from his executive leadership program. That's impossible. You couldn't have. Louisville, 1959, Allie continued. Community gym on Henderson Street. It's gone now, replaced by that luxury condominium development. Your brother talked about you that day, said his big brother was going to be the smartest financial mind in Kentucky someday. I watched my father's face transform. The carefully constructed narrative he'd built, that boxing was nothing but a barbaric sport that had killed his brother, was crumbling before my eyes. He was proud of you, Allie said, just like your daughter is proud of you despite your differences. My father looked at me, then back at Allie. Why are you really here? This can't be about some essay contest. Allie smiled. You're right. It's not just about the essay. He nodded to Angelo, who pulled out a folder with the logo of a prestigious sports management firm. Sarah's words reminded me of a promise I made to your brother. What promise? My father asked, his voice hoarse. Billy made me promise that if I ever made it big, I'd look out for his family. He talked about his smart older brother who would never approve of his boxing dreams but who he loved more than anyone. Allie's eyes were kind but unwavering. I've kept track of you over the years, from a distance. When Sarah's essay crossed my desk, with your family name and Louisville address, I knew it was time to fulfill that promise. My father slowly sank onto the couch, the premium leather creaking under his weight. All these years, he whispered, I've blamed boxing, but Billy chose it. He loved it. Yes, he did, Allie confirmed. Just like your daughter loves it, not as a fighter, but as someone who understands its value. Angelo opened the folder. This internship isn't charity, Mr. Mitchell. Based on Sarah's essay and her academic record, which we researched thoroughly, She's earned this opportunity. The starting stipend is $5,000 for the summer, with potential for college scholarship recommendations. My father's financial advisor brain seemed to kick in automatically. That's substantial for a high school internship. Investment in future talent usually is, Allie replied with a wink at me. Dad looked at the contract, then at me. You really want this, Sarah? More than anything, I answered truthfully. He took a deep breath, glancing at the medication organizer on the side table, a reminder of the stress his rigid control had brought into his life. Your mother will need convincing. I think I can handle that, came a voice from the doorway. Mom stood there, her designer handbag still on her arm from her preventative health care appointment. Her eyes were wide as she took in the scene. Muhammad Ali and Angelo Dundee sitting in our living room, my father looking both shattered and somehow lighter than I'd seen him in years. Mrs. Mitchell. Ali stood and extended his hand. Your daughter has quite a gift. I'm beginning to see that, Mom replied, recovering quickly from her shock. Her wealth advisory experience had taught her to adapt to unexpected situations. Though I'm curious how the greatest boxer in the world ended up in our living room discussing my daughter's future. As Ali briefly explained, I watched my mother's expression shift from disbelief to wonder. When he mentioned my Uncle Billy, she reached for my father's hand. James, she said softly to my dad, maybe it's time to let go of the past. My father looked at the contract again, then at the framed family photo on the wall, the four of us standing stiffly in coordinated outfits, smiles that didn't quite reach our eyes. Wealth without joy, security without passion. I've spent 20 years being angry at boxing for taking my brother, he said slowly. I built a life around financial security because I never wanted to feel that helpless again. Premium health insurance, diversified investment portfolio, life insurance with triple coverage, all because I couldn't save Billy. He turned to me, his eyes glistening. But I've been so focused on protecting you that I never saw I was suffocating you. Ali nodded. The greatest victory isn't winning a fight, Mr. Mitchell. It's knowing which fights are worth having. My father stood up straighter, as if putting down a heavy burden. I want to see this internship contract, all the details, the liability coverage, the terms, everything. Angelo smiled. Of course, I'd expect nothing less. And, my father continued, looking directly at me, if, and I mean if, I approve this, you maintain your GPA. You continue your college prep courses. This is an addition to your education, not a replacement. I nodded eagerly, hardly believing what I was hearing. And one more thing, Dad said, turning back to Ali. I want to know more about my brother's boxing days, not the ending I've dwelled on for 20 years, but the joy he found in it, the part I refused to see. That, Ali said with a gentle smile, would be my honor. 6 months later, our basement had transformed. The wood paneling remained, but now one wall was dedicated to framed boxing memorabilia, including a pair of gloves signed by Ali himself. More surprisingly, there was a small boxing area with a speed bag, installed under my father's careful supervision after consulting with 3 different safety experts and upgrading our homeowner's insurance policy. The changes weren't just physical. My father had started meeting with a group of his brother's old boxing friends, men who shared stories of Billy that had nothing to do with his tragic end, but everything to do with his vibrant life. Dad's blood pressure had improved enough that his doctor at the private clinic had reduced his medication. On your father's experiencing the benefits of emotional well-being on physical health, my mother explained one evening, her wealth advisor perspective always finding connections between seemingly unrelated aspects of life. It's like diversifying an emotional portfolio. My summer internship with Angelo Dundee's management company was approaching, and I'd already received pre-training materials on contract law and negotiation tactics. The company had even arranged for me to audit a sports management course at the local university, an opportunity that would look excellent on my college applications. Ali didn't just open a door for your career, my father admitted one evening as we worked together on hanging a vintage boxing poster in the basement. He helped me face what I've been running from for 20 years. That Saturday, we were preparing for a special dinner. Allie had kept in touch, sending occasional notes of encouragement and even calling once to check on my progress with the pre-internship materials. But tonight would be different. He was coming to dinner, along with Angelo and, most surprisingly, someone from my uncle's past. The doorbell rang precisely at 6. My father, now comfortable enough to wear a Muhammad Ali t-shirt around the house, opened the door with a genuine smile. Ali entered with his characteristic charm, followed by Angelo and an elderly man I didn't recognize. He walked with a slight hunch and carried a worn leather briefcase that had seen better days. "Mr. Mitchell," Ali said, "this is Marcus Washington. He was your brother's trainer." My father froze momentarily, then extended his hand, the trainer my family blamed for years. Marcus took my father's hand with dignity. "I've carried the weight of Billy's death every day since it happened. We have a lot to talk about," my father said quietly. "But first, welcome to our home." Over dinner, served on our finest china, Marcus opened his briefcase and removed an old notebook. Billy kept a training journal. I've held on to it all these years, waiting for the right time to return it to your family. My father accepted the journal with trembling hands. Inside were not just training notes but my uncle's thoughts, dreams, and reflections. Pages and pages of a life lived with passion, including numerous mentions of his proud but worried older brother. He writes here about how you co-signed his first apartment lease. My father read aloud, his voice thick with emotion. How you insisted on reviewing his first employment contract even though it was just at a local gym. You were looking out for him, even when you disagreed with his choices, Ali observed. I was, my father acknowledged, until I couldn't anymore, and then I just shut down everything that reminded me of him. Marcus leaned forward. I've spent 20 years wondering if I pushed him too hard, if I should have seen something was wrong before that final fight. And I've spent 20 years blaming you and boxing, instead of accepting that life comes with risks no matter how carefully we plan, my father replied. Ali watched this exchange with knowing eyes. Both of you have been paying premiums on a guilt policy neither of you needed to carry. My mother, ever practical even in emotional moments, raised her glass. To Billy, and to second chances. After dinner, in our newly renovated basement, my father unlocked a cabinet I'd never seen opened before. From it, he removed a small box. These were Billy's, he said, opening it to reveal a pair of hand wraps, faded with age, but carefully preserved. I kept them hidden away because looking at them hurt too much. Now I think they need to be seen. He handed them to me with a nod. I carefully draped them over the small display shelf we'd installed, right beside my essay that had brought Ali to our door. You know, my father said, addressing everyone but looking at me. I've spent my career helping people plan for financial security, life insurance, retirement portfolios, emergency funds, all important tools. But I forgot something essential. What's that, Dad? I asked. That security isn't just about protecting against loss. It's about having the freedom to pursue what matters. He placed his arm around my shoulders. I tried to protect you from life instead of preparing you for it. Ali nodded in approval. The greatest investment a parent can make isn't in a college fund or an insurance policy. It's in their child's spirit. As the evening wound down, with promises of future meetings and ongoing connections, I stood in our driveway watching Ali prepare to leave. The greatest boxer in history had knocked down walls in our home that no physical force could have breached. Thank you, I said simply, knowing no words could fully express what his intervention had meant. Ali smiled that luminous smile that had captivated the world. Remember, Sarah, in the ring of life, it's not about how hard you can hit. It's about how much you can love. Your father learned that lesson the hard way. Make sure his pain counts for something. As their car pulled away, my father stood beside me, his arms still around my shoulders. Together, we looked up at our house, The same structure, but now filled with a different kind of security. One built not just on financial planning and insurance policies, but on understanding, forgiveness, and the courage to embrace life's full spectrum of possibilities. Float like a butterfly, my father whispered. Sting like a bee, I finished, leaning into his embrace as we walked back into our transformed home. If you made it this far, and felt every word, won't you stay and subscribe? I tell these stories with my heart in my hand to reach people like you, who feel, who are moved, who truly live. If this touched you, give back, comment, subscribe, join this family with me until the next video.